my name is Brittany, and we're so excited you are joining us today. And today we're talking about a story that takes place the night Jesus was arrested. Jesus was praying in a garden with his disciples, and while he was praying, he asked God a very interesting question. He asked God if there was any other way to save the world from sin. And then he said, if so, let it be that instead. But he said something very important, and it's what we're talking about today. He said, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And sometimes it's hard to choose God's way, but God's way is ultimately always the best way. And that's why today we're saying every day I make choices that honor Jesus. But before we get to that, we're going to start things off by singing a song together. So go ahead, stand up, and sing this out with us as loud as you can.
Got a brand new sound, so get everybody talking, yeah. We won't stop, we won't wait. We'll stand and sing our Savior's name, our Savior's name. Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa, whoa. Death couldn't beat him, nothing could hold him down. Our God conquered the grave, so come on now, make it loud. Everybody shout it out. Jesus is alive right now. Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa, sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. We won't stop, we won't wait. We'll stand and sing the Savior's name. We won't stop, we won't wait. We'll stand and sing the Savior's name. Jesus is alive right now. Jesus is alive right now. Say, Jesus is alive right now. Jesus is alive right now. Shout it out. Jesus is alive right now. 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 Whoa! Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa! Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa! Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa! Sing it out, sing it out, sing it out. Jesus is alive right now. Whoa!
Krypton. You're not a figment of my imagination, of my Yeah, you're always gonna be there. When I'm in danger, when I'm in trouble, when I'm surrounded, well, I know that it's you that I can count on, that I can always count on. Hear me shouting out. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hawkman. Jesus, what a friend. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend. Whoa, whoa.
You guys sounded so great. Thank you for singing with us. And now we're going to take some time to watch a Bible story together. And like we said before, we're going to be talking about the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. So let's take a look.
Jesus and his friends were quiet as they walked along the narrow path just outside of town. It was a cool, dark night, and they were headed to their favorite place to pray, the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus came here often to talk to his Father, but he knew this time would be the last. "Will you stay awake and pray with me?" he asked his friends. But it was getting late, and even though they tried, their eyes got heavy and they drifted off to sleep under the olive trees. As they were sleeping, Jesus prayed. He had done this many times before, but on this night it felt different. He knew that it was almost time for him to fulfill his mission. He and his Father had planned it since the very beginning. Jesus was about to suffer for the sins of the whole world. The mission was going to cost him his life. "Father," Jesus cried as he knelt on the ground, "do we have to go through with this? Can we get your children back any other way?" But deep down, Jesus knew what he had to do. "Father, I trust you," he said. "I will do it." Just then, Jesus heard something off in the distance. He looked up and saw torches flickering in the darkness. There was an angry crowd of people heading right towards him. He woke up his friends, and as the crowd got closer, they could tell by the swords and spears twinkling in the moonlight that these men were soldiers. They had come to arrest Jesus, even though he had never done anything wrong. As the soldiers approached, they said, "We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus wasn't scared of what was about to happen, so he said boldly, "I am." When he said this, the power of God knocked the entire mob of soldiers to the ground. Jesus could have easily just walked away, but he didn't. He let the soldiers arrest him and take him away. His friends didn't understand what was happening, and they were scared of what might happen to them, so they ran away. They left Jesus all by himself.
In our story today, Jesus was praying in the garden before he was arrested. And while he was praying, he asked his Father if there was any other way to save the world from sin. And if there was, let it be that. But then he said something so powerful. He said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." He made a choice to go God's way, even though it was the most difficult thing anyone would ever do. And we all make choices all the time. Our good friend Pastor Cameron is going to talk to us more about that now. So let's check it out.
Before we get started today, I want to ask you all a question. By show of hands, how many of you have made a choice today? Everyone's hands should be raised because even if you didn't raise your hand, you chose not to raise your hand. Ha-ha!
Somebody just gotcha.
We all make choices all the time. Like, what clothes should we wear? Or what do we eat for breakfast? Or do I brush my teeth this morning? Or are teeth even worth it? Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly making choices. Today we're saying every day I make choices that honor Jesus. So what does that mean? Let's talk about it. There are a few different types of choices that we all make every day. And each of these choices is like a different path. The first type of choice is like the path where there's really no right or wrong way. You know, the kind of choices that are like, should I eat Lucky Charms this morning or Cinnamon Toast Crunch? God's not going to be looking down on you from heaven, shaking his head saying, should have had the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. He's not going to do that because ultimately these choices have no right or wrong answer. Whether you eat Lucky Charms or Cinnamon Toast Crunch, both paths lead you to eating a delicious bowl of cereal. The second type of choice is the path where our way and God's way line up. These are the easy choices, the kind of choices that you know are right and you want to do them. You want to go God's way. In these choices, it's easy to follow God down the right path because it's the best looking option. It's kind of like how I have no desire to karate chop my grandma. I know God wouldn't want me to karate chop my grandma, and I love my grandma, so I would never want to karate chop her, so stop asking me. The third type of choice is the path where we have to choose between our way and God's way. These choices aren't so easy. Sometimes the wrong choices may look fun and feel like the better option, but ultimately, when we choose our way over God's way, it's called sin. And sin is what separates us from God. God's way is the only path that leads to him. We see Jesus make this third kind of choice in our Bible story today. When Jesus was praying in the garden, he asked God if there was any other way to save all of us. If so, let it be that instead. Jesus did not want to go through all of that pain, all of that suffering, and the cross. He knew it would be the most painful thing anyone would ever experience. But he said something very important as he was praying in Luke 22:42. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Jesus chose to go God's way, even though it was the hardest thing that anyone would ever have to do. Jesus loved us enough to go God's way and make a way for us to be a part of his family. Our response should always be to do exactly what Jesus did. Because of our love for him, we should go God's way over our way. And when we do that, we're making choices that honor Jesus.
Pastor Cameron talked about how there are times in our lives when we have to choose God's way over our way, and that can be tough. But God's way is always the best way because it's the only way that leads closer to him. So that's it for this week, and remember that every day we should make choices that honor Jesus. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.